What do you do when you need to sound surprised? I'm asking this because it's something that I've seen a lot of people struggle with, and that can be a problem, right? If you need to convey information to someone, but you're not able to do so with your body, with your voice, they're going to have this impression of your message, even though you intended something else. And so today we're going to practice a little bit of techniques to show surprise. Now, it can be helpful when we need to express an emotion to have some context. So let's take a look at a little poem we're going to be using to practice this specific emotion. I'm just going to read it neutrally, and then we'll play around with it a little bit more. Sweating wine as I try to find ice. Okay, you're going to notice too that a lot of these words are using an I sound, which is a diphthong. In English, it's a diphthong, so you have these two vowel sounds. But remember that in English, when we're pronouncing vowels, we're going to kind of squish them together if we have a diphthong. So instead of doing something like I, which a lot of other languages kind of do when they pronounce that I sound, we're going to try to compress it to a single sound like I. In fact, this sounds just like the pronoun I. I do this. Okay, so this is an unpleasant situation. You have this situation where maybe you're having a party, you're having a celebration, people like to drink, maybe they're drinking some wine, and then you find out, oh no, the wine is getting a little bit hot. And you can't have that, especially if you're the host. So this is a situation that can make you surprised, but not necessarily in a good way. So something catches you off guard. So let's maybe just start with that. Something catches you off guard. What's the first thing you may do with your breath? What's the sound you can make? Well, maybe it's going to be a gasp, like, and notice some other things that happened when I did that too, right? My eyebrows went up. Maybe you make like an O shape with your mouth. Is opening your mouth. You might tense your jaw a little bit. You might tense up your shoulders. Let's do that one more time. Okay. Now, not everyone is necessarily going to opt for that way for surprise. They may say like, oh no, dread, almost a little bit of fear, right? Like, I can't believe this happened. Like, oh no. It's kind of the exact opposite, right? It's instead of being a gasp with a short, quick burst of air, this is a more droning, low, bassy expulsion of breath. Like, oh no. Duh. See how we're kind of using two keys that are dropping down. Duh. Oh no. So those are two different approaches, right? To show surprise. There's other ones as well, but I would experiment with those. Okay. And as you're practicing this, something I would encourage you to try doing too is take a sentence, any sentence. You can make one up or you can find one from a book, and just try doing it with those two different tactics. So for instance, in our first line here, we have the phrase sweating wine. Okay, sweating wine. And be careful again with that I sound as you link to the end. So it's not wine, it's wine. Don't let that N sound impact your vowel too much. You got to be careful with that. So let's start off with the gasp. Sweating wine. Sweating wine. One of the things that you may find when you do the gasp is it kind of shifts your placement and your projection higher versus if you use the second one. Oh no, sweating wine. See how everything's a little bassier, a little bit lower to start. Okay, so these tactics that you do with breath can have a pretty big impact on the immediate sound that goes over them. And you want to be careful too, because maybe you want to go for the lower one, but you get stuck high. Like it can be a little bit tricky going from that to a low pitch sweating wine. Try it yourself. Sweating wine. Conversely, it can be hard going from the low, oh no, to a high pitched sweating wine, right? Oh no, sweating wine. It can feel a little bit jarring and maybe even sounds a little bit jarring to listen for that. So experiment, play around with this. See how those different tactics feel as you try to express them. What's our second line here? So we have sweating wine as I try to find. Okay. And one of the things I'm kind of thinking about too, there's lots of different ways we could put context here, but like I have the sense that, okay, so you see a situation, it's not good. You want to find a a solution for it, right? So what do people do if they're trying to find a solution? So they might be kind of looking around either way. So get your body involved. Kind of just twist your torso, maybe even raise your hand and like a little tense. It's like trying to find. I know sometimes when I'm thinking about something, I'll like snap my fingers. So it's like trying to find. Okay. So let's pair that with both of our opening strategies. Let's do the gasp first. Sweating wine. Trying to find. Can you do that one more time? Sweating wine. Trying to find. And then let's maybe practice that with the oh no. Okay. Which is again lower energy, a little bit slower. Let's experiment with that. Oh no. Sweating wine. Trying to find. I find that for me, when I'm doing that, the thing that comes naturally for me is shifting to a lot of softness. Like it's the difference between like trying to find, which is a little firmer, versus trying to find lower pitch, more breath, a lot softer, right? And then we get to our final movement, which is ice. So lots of different ways we could do that. I think, again, it may depend a little bit on how you start. So if we start with the gasp, maybe it's going to sound something like this. Sweating wine. Trying to find ice. Notice there, we cut. There's a heavy kind of falling intonation. The breath didn't really extend. Trying to find ice, ice, ice. It's not like ice. No, it's like ice. There's some urgency to this, so we're cutting the breath a little bit. Conversely, let's try this out with that lower, dragged out, oh no. Oh no. Trying to find ice. See that? Trying to find. Notice that some other things happened there. Find. And then what do? We saunter down. Ice. Find. Ice. Find. Ice. Trying to find ice. Notice what's happening with that. English really likes patterns, but not too much. It likes the start of a pattern, but then once you see a pattern is occurring, you break it. So notice that like trying, kind of that rise, trying. Then we get the find, trying, find. They're similar to each other. A little lower in pitch on find, but similar. So what do we do on ice? We flip it because we just had two. We almost started a pattern, so now we break the pattern. Let's go down. Trying to find ice. Trying to find ice. Let's wrap this up. We're going to do this little poem again with the I sounds, with this element of surprise. We're going to do it with the kind of the big shocked surprise, with the gasp. Sweating wine. Trying to find ice. Versus the lower pitch, slower, more dragged out. Oh no. Sweating wine. Trying to find ice. What do you think? Which one are you more likely to use? The gasp, the higher placement, and the punchier sounds, or the more dragged out, like, oh no, for a situation like this?